This is Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell. All talk and all crime, the nation's biggest murders, financial crimes on Wall Street, the facts, the forensics, the inside stories today. Jeffrey Felix was a prison guard at Lovelock Correctional Center in Lovelock, Nevada, which currently houses OJ Simpson, sentenced to a 22-year prison term for attempting to steal his own sports memorabilia with a group of men at a hotel in Vegas. Two of the men brought guns at OJ's request. Jeff's new book is Guarding the Jews, How OJ Simpson Became My Prison BFF. Welcome, Jeff.
Jim, how are you?
Good to have you. We've done a couple of interviews recently because of this People versus OJ FX series. We had Tanya Brown, who's Nicole Simpson Brown's sister, and Jill Shively, who OJ almost ran into on the way between the crime scene and getting back to Rockingham. And that's where I want to start. You were the closest person to him in prison, and you are convinced he's guilty.
That is correct. The overwhelming evidence kind of pushed me over the edge to the guilty side.
Where does he stand on this still? Do you think he's in complete denial, or he knows what's going on but is going to remain in public denial?
I think he is in complete denial, because when I ask him if he did it or not, he just gives me a look. He doesn't say yes. He doesn't say no. And I always say, hey, Juice, is that the look? He goes, you're getting the look. He doesn't want to talk about it.
Interesting. You talk about him offering you bribe not to do this book. When we had Jill on, she told me probably more off the record that his lawyers offered her a bribe of $40,000 not to be around during the trial.
Well, what happened with me was after he found out I was writing a book, he talked to a few CEOs at work, because I wasn't working there anymore. I was retired, and he sent them a message to give to me that he wished I would just shut my mouth and he'd give me $1 million if he had it to have me not write this book.
You seem to convey that you have a good sense of when someone's lying to you. Do you get a sense that he's a pathological liar?
I think he thinks he's telling the truth when he's not. I think he believes he's telling the truth, but I can always tell because he doesn't focus, or he focuses too hard, or he doesn't really look at me. So I pretty much got him down over the years. I understand when he's BSing me.
Very interesting. Now, this recent knife that was found at Rockingham, I personally didn't think it was going to show anything because I think he was so rushed when he got back. He wasn't, sitting around burying stuff, and that he got rid of it at Los Angeles airport where people saw him dumping a bag. Did you get any? Have you had any sense what his feeling was when this thing showed up?
Yeah, right after that thing showed up, a couple of my confidential informants called me up from the prison. They told me he's laughing it off. He's joking about it. He wants to know why the knife was held on to for 18 years. And his new saying is, he's walking around the yard, and his new saying is, if the knife is rusted, I can't be busted.
Tell us briefly how you became his BFF after A.C. Cowlings, I guess, number 2 BFF.
Yeah, Juice and I would walk the track a lot. We'd hang out a little bit. And then one day he got in trouble. One of the inmates brought back cookies from the culinary, contraband cookies. And OJ was eating one of the contraband cookies on the tier, and the officer in the bubble saw him. And she threatened to write him up for having contraband. And the next day when I came into work, OJ made a beeline for me, asking me to get out of the trouble. And I ended up calling the officer, because the officer worked graveyard, and talked her out of the write-up. So ever since then, the Juice has kind of trusted me. So
he's kind of a loyal guy. Do you think there's any truth to this? It's always been rumored that, we had the failure of justice where he almost beheads his wife and gets off, and somehow he's sentenced to this huge term for stealing back his own memorabilia. Do you think there was some sort of I don't want to use the word conspiracy, but this is how we're going to punish him sentence?
Yeah, like I always told the Juice, I believe in karma. What comes around goes around. And believe it or not, most inmates are not in prison for what they did. They're in prison for what they didn't do, but what they did before.
Interesting.
You know what I'm saying? It comes around. Everything works its way around, and that's what happened to the Juice. And he thinks it's the biggest BS thing in the world that he's in prison for getting back his own memorabilia.
Which gets back to his sort of personality. You talk about him expressing love for Nicole, although what went through your mind then is you loved her, why did you kill her? He sees himself almost as a victim, doesn't he?
Yeah, he has a shrine to her on his shelf. He has a picture of him and her together on one of their anniversaries. And he's still overwhelmingly in love with Nicole, and he thinks he was screwed. He thinks someone else did this, and that, the LAPD detectives only focused on him. They didn't focus on anybody else during the investigation. So, yeah, he thinks he was screwed.
So let me ask you about that. He presented to you that he thought Ron and Nicole may have owed $30,000 for cocaine to a dealer, but his own lawyers didn't present that defense.
Correct. He thought that they owed $30,000, and the drug dealer, and they asked OJ if he covered. He said no. They told him they're going to go over there and talk to Nicole and Ron and have Ron push the drugs at his restaurant to make up the $30,000. And I asked the Juice, I said, well, why didn't you tell Shapiro about this? Why didn't you tell Johnny Cochran about this? He goes, I did, and they didn't want me to pursue that route. They had the better route to getting me off.
You quote him as saying only two people know him and AC. What does that exactly mean? I assume that he's not saying AC was on the scene with him, but...
No, I think what he meant, you got to remember, Jim, he was in one of his, I call him his CTE modes, where he wasn't playing with a full deck that morning. And he called me over to his cell for some juice time. That's what he called it, because I'm Jewish and he's a juice. and he pulled me up, and he had like a tear in his eye. He didn't look very good. I said, Juice, you all right? You need to go to medical? He goes, I just want to tell you that there's only two people alive that know who did the Brentwood murders. I said, who would that be? He goes, me and AC. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, I know AC didn't commit the murders. AC's not a guy that's going to commit a crime. So I'm thinking either OJ saw who did it and killed who did it, or OJ did it and told AC, because he told me that he tells AC everything. So I'm thinking that he had a breakdown. He just admitted that he did the murders, and he told AC about it.
And AC's not telling anybody.
Heck no, AC's a solid guy. AC wouldn't tell anybody anything.
What's his health like? I mean, people have seen these pictures of ballooning weight.
Well, he got real big. Got about 300 and some pounds.
Wow.
And then he thought he was going to get a pardon. So him and I started walking the track, and he's killing me out there. We're walking 2 miles a day, no stop. And he got down to, I think, about 260, 270, which is pretty good for him. He's a pretty big guy. He's big bone, pretty tall. I lost 50 pounds myself doing these morning and afternoon daily walks. But now I heard he's picking back up the weight again. He's back up to right around 280 to 300 again.
Where does he think he's getting a pardon from?
Well, he put in for a pardon in Nevada a few years ago, and he hired an attorney fresh out of law school, and the attorney came in with too many words. You're only not in Nevada. You only can have so many words in your pardon, and the attorney totally screwed up the pardon. He had no chance from the start. And I told the Juice that. I said, you need to hire someone that really knows what they're doing. But he was focused on this one kid. So the pardon did not go through or got denied.
Now, he told you that on the Bronco chase, the famous Bronco chase, that he was seriously contemplating suicide. But he had cash, disguises, and a whole bunch of stuff that didn't look like he was necessarily thinking about ending his life.
Yeah, and I asked him about that, and he said he never had that stuff in his Bronco, to sneak. I told him, I said, what were you thinking about doing, Juice? Sneaking to Mexico, then flying out, with disguises? And he said no. And then with the suicide thing, he did have the gun to his head. He actually was contemplating shooting himself in the head until he saw, like, an 8-year-old boy that reminded him of him at that age with a sign that says, "We heart you, Juice." And that's when the Juice started thinking about his own kids and his own life, and he didn't do it.
We'll get down to about a minute or so, a little bit more. Tell us what a day in the life of OJ is like in prison. He's in a medium security prison with 1,700 folks.
Oh, he's got a rough life, let me tell you. He gets up about 7 a.m., heads over to the gym to go to work, sits around the gym. He wipes down the railings. He wipes down a few equipment. They have a big TV in the gym where he has ESPN on. He watches that for a few hours. Then he heads back to his cell, takes about an hour nap, wakes up, goes to lunch, gets himself some lunch, hits the yard for a few laps around the track, takes another afternoon nap, takes a shower, and then heads to dinner like around about 4:45, 5 o'clock, goes to the chow hall for dinner, comes back, plays poker, plays a little dominoes, watches TV, and then goes to sleep. The Juice has a rough life, let me tell you.
Sounds sort of like a country club, but I guess it doesn't have a golf course.
No golf course. He wishes it did, but it doesn't have a golf course.
In 10 seconds, what's the biggest single revelation to you?
That OJ did over that time?
Yeah.
I think his love for Nicole, I can't understand it. And I tell him that. I can't understand it. Why would you let her be murdered? You had something to do with it, obviously.
He's got a huge ego. You say in the book that he likes to feel when he walks into a room that everybody knows who the heck he is. What was his psychological state? Did he get depressed having to have his, be confined?
Well, no, he was all right with it. He was just always looking forward to his life outside of prison. Most inmates, just focus on what's going on inside prison. The Juice would always look about what's going on outside of prison. It was kind of weird. He didn't live in the prison in his mind. He lived on the street.
Interesting. Did the guards, and you talk about this, or a certain segment, try to punish him, try to catch him doing stuff?
Yeah, in my book, Guarding the Juice, the guards ended up splitting in the prison. A lot of the guards wanted to punish him for the crimes that he did in California, and a lot of guards just wanted to do their job, in just prison guarding over him. So the prison became kind of a split. There was the friendly OJ guards and the anti-friendly OJ guards. And it ended. The whole situation ended when a correction officer and a caseworker ended up fighting down the street at the cattle guard, where it separates the state line, where you could actually fight back in those days. And the caseworker beat the heck out of the prison guard. I was there. It was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen.
Why do you think that he trusted you so much?
Well, I earned his trust. After the cookie incident, he got into it with a white supremacist. Actually, the white supremacist got into it with him. And I ended up having to go all the way to the leader of the white supremacists to try to get try to get a peace offering going. Because, the Juice can't get in a fight because he won't get paroled. He can't have someone fighting for him because he'll be a chicken. And, and he can't report it because he'd be a rat. So he V-lined for me again. And I went over there to talk to the white supremacist guy who, I didn't figure he doesn't like Jews either. So he told me to get out of his house. So I ended up going to the head guy, the shot caller, they call him in the prison. And he brokered the peace. And within a half an hour, the guy was out there shaking hands with OJ. So OJ was, I earned his respect. I earned his loyalty in the prison, in my mind.
What's the Goldman van?
The Goldman van was the guys that did not like OJ. It was a carpool. And they would talk, I heard they would talk about ways to get OJ into prison, ways to set him up, write him up, that if you got to write up OJ, you be the man. So the van pool switched around. You got to remember, Lovelock's out in the middle of nowhere. It's like 1946 out there with iPhone. So there was different van pools coming from Reno, from different towns, and the Goldman van ended up being the OJ haters. There was like 6 of them. And I told the Juice, you need to stay the heck away from those dudes. Don't look at them. Don't go near those guys at work, because they're all out to get them every day.
And was OJ treated differently? You have a section you call OJ exceptions.
Yeah, in Guarding the Juice, it shows, I think, 8 exceptions that OJ gets, and a couple of them are, he can't be shot on the yard. I mean, if you're in a gun tower and there's a fight going on, it's kind of like being in public. You got to look at your backdrop, and you got to make sure that the Juice is nowhere around, because if the Juice got shot, the media would have a frenzy. We all know that. And another exception in the book is that OJ cannot have any use of force placed on him. So, like, when you're walking the yard as a correction officer, you have the right to put any inmate you want in restraints. You cannot put OJ Simpson in restraints without getting orders from the sergeant or above.
And he could have additional toilet paper and things like that.
Well, what happens is that correction officers are pretty much lazy people. And if you're a correction officer out there, no disrespect, I did it for 20 years. You hand out toilet paper twice a week on swing shift. Why not just do it once a week and give them twice as much? You see what I'm saying, Jim? Mm-hmm. If you give them twice as much, you only have to do it once a week. Well,
more productive, good productivity.
There it is. So when you give him toilet paper once a week, well, they have OJ, you know, if he has 4 rolls of toilet paper, you're only allowed 2. Here come the OJ haters. Hey, you got 4 rolls of toilet paper. We're writing you up. It's horrible. I mean, for OJ to go 8 years with me working out there and not get one write-up, it would be like a highway patrol following you around the whole time and not getting a ticket. I don't know how he can do it. It's amazing.
Now, he converted at one point to Islam?
Yeah, at one point, OJ switched over to Islam, and it made a big ruckus on the yard because when he was a Christian, the Christian base was huge, okay? Because, you know, his mom, Eunice, was a big Christian. OJ and I talked about that a lot, and that's also in the book. But when he switched to Islam, a lot of people switched to Islam with him, and a lot of people came to Islam. And then we had the volunteers on the street find out that OJ was Islam, so we had more volunteers coming in. But then when the Ramadan came around and OJ had to go that 1 month or whatever it is, night eating from sunrise to sunset, he couldn't do it. They had people with him the whole time helping him, but when he was back in his cell, he ended up cheating, and he came to me. He said, Felix, I cheated. I had donuts or whatever he had that day. I said, you know, I've been looking this up for you, Jude. If you accidentally cheat in Ramadan and you didn't mean to eat, it's not against you. He goes, who the hell are you, my Bob Shapiro in here? Well, I'm just looking out for you, Jude. You look like you're happy as an Islam. But within a few weeks, he switched back to being a Christian again.
And he played pretend golf in there? Yeah.
When he walks around the gym, he'll pretend he's hitting like a club. He'll be hitting a 9-iron. He likes to keep his form, and I think he thinks he's in the outside world because, you know, him and I would talk about golf a lot because we're both golfers. So I'd always say, hey, what club are you using? Because while I'm about 120 yards down, I'm using a 9. I said, all right, there we go. So, yeah, he would just pretend that all the time.
Of course, the rumors were he cheated at golf, too.
Yes. He did admit that to me. He did cheat at golf, but you got to remember, I admitted to him that I cheated at golf also. I don't like losing to my boys. So he said, yeah, he did that as well.
Is he looking forward to getting out?
Yes, he comes up for parole next year, and this would be the parole. He made his first parole off all the little charges, but this would be the parole off the actual robbery charge, the lifetime kidnapping charge. So it's going to be a little rougher, but you know. With him being a model inmate, me, you know, speaking out in public, you know, he's a model inmate, it puts a lot of heat on the parole board because, you know, the parole board's supposed to go off of his, you know, actions in prison. And he haven't got a write-up by next year in 9 years. You got a correction officer writing in a book that he's a model inmate. You know, it's putting a little heat on the parole board. I know they're not happy with me.
Because they'd like to deny it?
Of course they would.
And keep him in for 22 years ultimately?
Well, usually what they do is when you go to your first parole that sends you to the street, they usually give you a 2 or 3 year dump, which means you got to come back in 2 or 3 years. Then they usually give you a 1 year dump, and then they set you free. You know, I've been doing this for a minute, and that's usually how the parole board works. It kind of covers their butts a little bit because if he got out and committed another crime, the parole board is actually responsible for him. The state could actually be sued if they let him out on parole.
We'll be back finishing up on the juice with Jeff Felix next. This is Jim Campbell, host of Forensic Talk. Tune into this station on Monday evenings at 6 p.m. for deep dives into the biggest crime stories today. Unsolved murders, financial crimes, penetrating questions.
I'm John Iannuzzi, producer of Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell. Each week, you'll hear in-depth interviews, whether it's Bobby Kennedy Jr. on his claims his cousin Michael Skakel is innocent of the Moxley murder, or a brutally honest conversation with Kathleen Willey, one of the women alleging sexual assault in the Clinton Oval Office, or the first interview after prison with an insider trader from the Raj Rajaratnam's biggest insider trading scandal in Wall Street history.
That's Monday night at 6 p.m. We'll bring you the facts, the forensic, both sides of the story, from insider trading to crimes of passion.
Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell is brought to you by Park City Productions. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram. That's Park City Productions 06604.
We're with Jeffrey Felix. He's the author of a new book, Guarding the Juice, about OJ in prison. He was a correctional officer himself, became the closest person to OJ Simpson in prison. What about his roommates, boy? He had some characters. The first guy, serial rapist. Tell us about him.
Oh, in the book, Guarding the Juice, it shows all about his roommates. But his first cellie was a guy named Izzy. He was a really big gentleman. I got along great with Izzy. He's 6'9", 350 pounds, and according to him, he told me that he was in there for serial rape. And the first time I met OJ in the gym, he came over and introduced himself, and I asked him, I said, how's your new cellie? He goes, he's all right. And I asked him, I said, who's the man in that relationship? And you should have seen the look that Juice gave me when I asked him that. He looks at me, he goes, there's no relationship. He goes, who the hell are you? I said, I'm Felix. You haven't heard about me yet? He goes, no, there's no. Then he just started laughing. He played it off real well. And his roommate, Izzy, was a law clerk. He worked for me in prison industries for a minute. Really easygoing guy, but huge. I mean, he looks like just a huge offensive lineman. And then the Juice had another cellie, Smoke. You probably read about him in the tabloid. Good
before we get to Smoke, I just want to clarify that you asked this guy, well, how many raped? And he said over 100.
That is correct. That was his words to me. That was years ago I asked him that. And he was proud of it.
Okay, tell us about Smoke now.
Smoke is a really nice guy if he liked you. He's a real muscular guy. He was pretty much OJ's protector for years and years and years. He would cook for OJ. He cleaned for OJ. He protected OJ. But in the end, what happened was him and another guy named Honey Bun on the yard were extorting $150 a week of canteen each from OJ.
Really?
It happened for a few months, and then the Juice pulled me up one day and said he can't take anymore. What do I do? You can't report it because you'd be a rat. So what I did was I wrote a note on a kite form and dropped it in the investigator's box, the anonymous box in operations where all the sergeants and lieutenants are, that something was going on with OJ on the yard. And pretty soon, the investigator got it. And Lovelock is a very well-managed prison, so they pulled in Honey Bun, and right away Honey Bun rolled on Smoke, and they both ended up going to the hole. And then OJ got a new cellie, but he wasn't getting extorted anymore, so OJ was back in the clear.
Where's OJ get this money?
He gets most of it from his NFL retirement. He gets a partial portion while he's in prison, according to him.
I see. Was OJ under threat of people trying to beat him up or something? Is this why he needed a bodyguard?
No, but you never know. You got some crazies in there, and it really worked out well with Smoke looking out for OJ. It was a great situation until he tried to extort the money, but there's always crazies in a prison. You never know.
Do you know who he communicates with on the outside?
According to OJ, he talks to Khloe about once a week. He talks to his daughter. He talks to his son. I heard he talks to Vernon Davis, according to him. I think Vernon's like friends with his son and a few other close friends. And he talks to AC. I know for a fact he talks to AC because I was walking home one day and I went by the phone booth and OJ was out there talking on the phone. I said, hey, OJ, have a great weekend. If that's AC, tell him I said hello. He said, it is. You want to say hey? So I said, hey, what's up, AC? He goes, hey, put the Juice back on the phone. I said, yes, sir. Getting the phone back to the Juice. So it was AC. I talked to him myself.
What is this rumor talking about Khloe Kardashian that he might be her true father?
I hit the Juice up many times about that, and he always tells me it's not true, that he wouldn't do that to his best friend, Bob. But, I told OJ right before I left, I said, look, she's taller. She doesn't look like the other Kardashians. And he would always ask him for a paternity test, and he would always deny it. But, like the Juice pretty much agrees with me, if she actually took the time to come out to the prison, asked OJ in person, I'm sure he would comply with a paternity test. I don't see why he wouldn't.
Why hasn't he?
He said it's nobody's business except for family business. And I guess he said that Khloe calls him her Uncle OJ. So he said it's nobody's business. If they do it, they do it. But there's no way that he's going to do a paternity test with just Khloe asking him on the phone. She'd have to actually come out to the prison and ask him in person.
So Go ahead. Let me ask you this. Nicole Simpson was best friends, I guess, with Kris Kardashian, so the family kind of split. Why is Khloe wanting to even speak with the guy?
Khloe and the Juice, according to the Juice, were always tight. I think the Jews think that there's a good possibility that she could be his, is what I'm thinking, even though he's in denial of that once again. So I think that's why they've always stayed tight. And she pretty much lets him know everything that's going on with the rest of the Kardashians because, Kris doesn't talk.
Right.
OJ. They despise each other. I don't know if he talked to Kim. He said he might have talked to her for a couple of times, but I know he stays pretty tight with Khloe.
Does he ever comment about the Goldmans? And, Kim Goldman, who I've interviewed several times, really has stayed focused on her hatred of him.
He doesn't like Fred Goldman because the first Halloween that he was out at the prison, a few of the guards put those Goldman mustaches on and walked around. Yeah, that got him a little fired up. They did the fake Fred Goldman, and he came to complain about me about it, and I was wearing one also. It was a pretty... I've seen him coming, so I stuck it on my goatee. It was a pretty good day.
I like.
There's no love.
I like the description of you came up. I think I have this right. And OJ was looking in the mirror, and you said, "Oh, you found the murderer."
Yeah, we were in his cell one day, and he was in one of those, the CTE mine, like I told you, where he wasn't all the way there, and he was just cleaning up something, and I came in there to BS with him for a minute, and he was in the mirror, and he was using the sink to clean something up, and I said, "Juice, you just solved the Brentwood murders." He goes, "What the hell are you talking about, Felix?" I go, "The murder. It's right there in the mirror." And that was the meanest look I've ever seen OJ give me. But then within 2 minutes, he forgave me. He just smiled.
By the way, you've mentioned this a couple of times, and now people are saying maybe it's an excuse. Do you think he had any evidence of CTE or something that might sort of justify impulsive behavior?
I asked him once about the CTE, and he said his head is too strong and too muscular to get CTE and too big. But, you would talk to the guy, and some days he would be, like, on his game, like Muhammad Ali. I mean, coming up with great stuff. Mm-hmm. Remembering everything. And then the next day, you would talk to the guy, and he wasn't all there. I mean, He was maybe 94% there, and you could tell. I mean, he's a USC guy. You could actually tell that he wasn't all there. And those are the days that I would hit him up, for questions. But one day we were walking the track, and he was out there. He was talking to himself, and that's one of the days I hit him up to ask him if he did the murders. And pretty much that was the day that he said only 2 people know about it, myself and AC. So I could tell pretty easily.
Did you ever see that look that's been described by Nicole and others, that when he's in a pure rage, his face gets really scary, his pupils are dilated, and he just looks like a different, almost animal?
I never saw that. Not in 7 years. I never saw that look.
Are you now an FBFF, former best friend forever? What reactions have you gotten from him on the book?
No matter what anybody tells you, OJ knew I was writing a book. We were walking the track one day, and I was asking him questions. And he said, "What, are you writing a book or something?" And Felix doesn't lie. I looked at him. I said, "Maybe." And we kept walking. Well, when I retired in September, and I came out in November saying that I'm writing a book about the juice, and I was on a few TV shows for my book, Guarding the Juice, the word got back to me, first of all, about the $1 million not to write the book. And second, our tea time is off. Because when he got out, we were going to play golf. But, within a few months, Jim, he got over it. And he got word back to me through some prison guards out there that our tea time is back on, and the Juice forgives him because the Juice said he knew I was going to make some money off his name. So we're good again.
Well, thanks, Jeff. Very interesting stuff. You are probably the only guy over the last 10 years who can give any insight. His book, again, Guarding the Juice, How OJ Simpson Became My Prison BFF. It's co-written with Corey Levitan. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. All right, you're listening to Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell, and we're happy now to be joined by Al Dressler, who runs the Central Forensic Lab and FaceChecks.com at the University of Bridgeport, I think in their incubator. But importantly, the UB is expanding cybersecurity offerings, which is a very hot topic right now. Tell us, first of all, exactly what you do, Al, and what is FaceChecks.com and Central Forensic Lab. Sounds cool for our show, right?
Yeah, I mean, I started in 1999. I was getting my master's at the University of New Haven, which is a really big criminal justice program there. And I was getting my master's in business administration. I found a job in New York City working as an undercover field agent for a firm that specialized in healthcare fraud. So we would do a lot of healthcare investigations, mostly on chiropractors. But anyhow, I got interested in this field, and I started working for other investigators in Fairfield County. And through the years, learned a lot about investigations and the growth and the future of investigation. So, for example, technology when I started was I'd be in a minivan with all tinted windows and a big VCR on my shoulder. So now fast forward till today, it's all a lot of digital forensic investigations. And what I did in 2011, I saw this shift. So I went to the University of Bridgeport and I approached them, and they had a high-tech incubator program starting there that Governor Jody Rell had commissioned. And so I came up with this idea. I said, listen, the investigation field is really shifting towards more high-tech investigation. So I said, I pitched them for a forensic lab. They agreed to it. And since being there, we've made a partnership actually with the university where we have software developed by a couple of their engineers. And it's a facial recognition software, biometric software, where it's being used to show students that are actually taking tests to show, is that the same student that signed up to take that test? Because believe it or not, cheating is rampant at University of Bridgeport because
is that right?
There's so many opportunities. If you're taking a test on a computer and you're able to do a pop-up window and feed your friend in the dorm the question, it comes right back to you. So, that's one of the things. The other things that we're doing is more of a physical security, facial recognition at the dorms and at the student center and at the gym to show, we're trying to make this campus as secure as possible. So
do you run the forensic lab then? You actually started it and everything?
I run the forensic lab, and we also, from the forensic lab, have just created a concentration in cyber security. So I'm actually teaching a course, and it's a course on cyber forensic investigations. That's combined with some other network security course and a couple other courses for that concentration. What we're hoping is we're able to grow that into a full master's program, and then from there really build up the forensic lab.
Are you one of the only universities, and certainly in this area, that has both this capability and that's rolling out a major in it?
Sacred Heart has a major. University of New Haven has had a program there as well. But the difference with us is because we're in the incubator, we have a commercial entity where we're actually able to sell our software, able to sell our
Are you doing criminal investigations
services.
at all?
Yeah, we're doing. So we're able to. We have attorneys come to us with cases. We're able to do.
Oh, so you'll become like expert capability, right?
So attorneys. And then we have personal
DNA
cases.
kind of stuff, and
well, yeah, DNA. We have a lab in Utah that handles DNA, physical forensics. We have partnerships with, but for the cyber forensics, we handle in our own lab. So
and you guys are leading edge on developing facial recognition algorithms, et cetera?
Oh, yeah. Yep. We have the facial recognitions. They actually started working on this right after 9/11. It's been used a couple times, but the thing that the university liked was, well, let's try to solve a problem at the university. One is physical security, because you're in Bridgeport and there's always, just reading the news, there's always something going on in Bridgeport. The other was there's this problem where we have students that are cheating on the tests, and even in front of the professor. So this is to work with the students that are home, and they could have their mother or their wife or someone else helping them along. So
let me ask you an example of a big time happening. The Russian the allegations the Russians hacked into the Democratic National Committee and in Hillary's emails, right? Is that easy to do?
It depends. I mean, there's always a gray area, and like even. I think the news came out today where the guy from WikiLeaks said, there could be a 10-year-old in his basement hacking. And he's right, because I'm not going to tell you.
The story is that Podesta fell, you get these emails in your box saying you got to change your password right away, and that he fell for that.
Well, yeah. I mean, and
does that actually work? You could actually then get access to 50,000 emails like that?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to tell you exactly how these people are doing this, because I don't want it being out there that, because it's very simple. It's
simple.
Very simple on how it gets done. And I'm not going to explain it. But that being said, when someone says...
Which means the 300-pound kid in the basement could be doing this.
Exactly, yeah.
So, first off, are you finding a lot of student demand in this new major, and that's going to translate into jobs? I mean, I saw the article written on your program, the salaries associated with these types of positions, very impressive.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we are starting... I mean, we just started this program in the fall, and we are getting interest And University of Bridgeport's mostly international students that are in the engineering department. So we're trying to market it and show them the availability for these jobs.
Market it abroad, you mean?
Yeah.
To get students to come just for the cybersecurity.
Right. And the other thing is that there is a lot of jobs available right now in this field. So even if someone just has a concentration, it'll open up a door for them. So.
And the majors are going to be what exactly? Cybersecurity and the management of IT cybersecurity.
Well, right now it's just a concentration in cybersecurity. So
it's a technical kind of.
There's a course if you're getting your degree in technology management, which isn't strictly technical, you could have a concentration in cybersecurity too. Because the course I'm teaching it's probably 80% more management skills. More of, what do you do when a case comes in? How do you put a strategy together? How do you, resolve all these problems from the top management team down to the guy that's working at the front desk? So a lot of it is more managerial. And then there's a scope that is the technical end where we're going to go through most of it's freeware provided by these companies that actually manufacture the forensic software, and it helps them walk through step by step. Okay, this is what we're going to do with this device. A cell phone comes in, we're going to walk through, locking it down, gathering the data, and then reviewing that data.
Are you confident that we can lock down these kinds of hacking things over time? I'm
pretty confident that there's going to be more and more people in this field, and that'll open up the ability to lock down the amount of hacks. But I think that when you see, like, people come to us and they had something where they're being either harassed online or something's happened with their phone or something, and you go to try to do an investigation and you have an IP address that's in the middle of Russia, or it comes back in India, or someone's just using a device to ping that IP
Are there always digital forensic footprints for things like that where we can go back to the IP address and it is in the GRU, Russian internal security, or can they hide that?
Oh yeah, no, you can definitely hide it. Technology's moving so fast that there's so many different user groups now and blogs and people that are help each other out. Perfect example is WikiLeaks. I mean, how much information has he gathered, or has that organization gathered through just people within that network?
Do you believe him when he says he didn't get the data from the Russians at all?
It's hard for me to say how I could believe what he's doing, but there's definitely things that could come from other sources.
Getting back to
he's proved that too. I mean, he's gotten sources within our own government. So
yeah, you're listening to Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell. We're taking deep dives into unsolved murders, financial crimes on Wall Street, intrigue in Russia. Only here on Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell. All right, you're listening to Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell, and we're happy to be joined by Al Dressler, who runs the Central Forensic Lab and FaceChecks.com at the University of Bridgeport. But getting back to UB, what's the overall incubator do? I mean, is the forensics lab the key part of the incubator, or is the incubator helping grow small businesses and things like that?
Yeah, so the incubator has multiple startups, multiple tech startups there, and they also have a student entrepreneurial center there too, which is
this is leading edge stuff, by the way. Stanford is doing big incubator stuff.
Oh yeah, yep. Stanford, CT Next, Connecticut Innovations has helped our company. Also, the obviously the university.
So you're incorporated.
Yes.
Meaning, so this the incubator can be for profit.
Right.
And what flows back to the university, which is nonprofit, I assume, right?
Right.
Money flows back, or?
Well, they have a percentage in our company, and then they get. Whatever the other incubator companies there are mostly, it's just rent that they're getting from those other companies. So unless you start a partnership with the university. So our initial business plan was to start the forensic lab and have it in partnership with the university, and also create this cyber program. This goes back to 2011. So it's taken a few years. Mm-hmm. Obviously, nothing happens overnight, but it's taken a few years. They've noticed the growth in this field, and then they were able to make some waves.
You got to give UB credit. Give folks examples of the exact type of job that the student, once they get this degree, and maybe a master's degree next, examples of where they'd go work.
Well, right now, the high demand right now is the FBI. The FBI is looking for, anyone with this type of background.
Is this related to terrorism or?
Homeland Security, terrorism, Lincoln Labs, anything where they're able to do type of cybersecurity work. But after that, you have a lot of big corporations, hedge funds, things like that, where they need to keep their data secure. So, and then, healthcare is a big field right now. There was an interesting case in California where a hospital was cyber attacked, and they were actually able to change the medicine in the IVs. No one died.
Oh, the hacker could.
Yeah.
That's sick stuff, man.
Yeah. No one died, but there was actually, a case like that. So healthcare, and you think about it, healthcare is actually
let's take that case for a second. Would you guys in the forensics lab use that as a case study to try and figure out how that could have? You do. Okay.
So we use that.
Reverse engineer it back.
Right. That's a case study. Then you have a case like Sony. When they were hacked by Korea, and then you have.
So you've actually looked at in how that happened and how to prevent it.
Yep. Yeah, and
so do you come up with the conclusion that, like for instance, Sony completely screwed up in their security
structure? Again, going back to human error and technical savvy, how much was it human error? And like I said,
you can't really fix human error, can you?
The training is very important. More training definitely will help secure or decrease the amount of human error. You see it in your own at home. There's certain things that just through your own experience working on the computers or on your phone or something. You see an email come in, you go all the way down, scroll all the way down that email, and you'll see it might say up top, it might say from Amazon, but at the bottom it's from some odd address, somewhere. So.
I look at the who the email is from. It'll say it's from Amazon, but then you click on what the email it is, and it's nothing. It doesn't say any. The banks are the worst. The Citibank. They'll come up and you got to tell us your password right now, and then you'll see the reply has nothing of Citibank in it, so you know that it's. But it is scary. Now, here's an example for me. I did use the Amazon help desk because I had problems, my nephews, with an Uber gift card. But like a week later, I got in my thing, we'd like to see how you felt about our service from Amazon. And it was like over a week later. So I didn't know whether that was, just coincidental, a scam, or that it was actually Amazon following up to find out what I thought of their service, because it wasn't really clear. Now, the reply did have Amazon in it, so I didn't fill it out just because I was worried that it might be a scam,
Do you run security checks on your computer periodically?
Meaning what? It has
like a virus scan or things like that?
I think it's supposedly got an automatic virus scan on it, doesn't it? I mean,
it depends. I mean, we do virus scans like on a weekly basis, and then because cookies and there's ways where they're able to get an idea.
Should people not do cookies?
I mean, it depends. Like you said, if you're dealing with Amazon, there's a certain amount of cookies that are going to be coming and going. But that's how, they might have gathered the information from your email or the help desk email. But they could have just figured out you were communicating with Amazon. And then just having that information, then they could throw you a spoof email.
Yeah, see, that's what scared me.
Right.
And then I respond, and all of a sudden they didn't get into my Amazon account. It's a sad statement of reality.
But is it the other question is it actually you that they target it, or is it Amazon they target? Okay, so they see you communicating with Amazon because they know who everyone's communicating through their breach of Amazon. So that when you in the news you hear there were a billion emails were, how many times in the news they don't report that? That's because they might not know. So for example, there could be hacks going on where they're doing testing. They're doing hacks where they're just gathering a little bit of information where no one knows about it.
Well, Al Dressler has just convinced us of the importance of why they're adding cybersecurity offerings at UB. Why don't we finish up again? Describe exactly what you guys are doing there.
Okay, so we're doing a few different things. One is the forensic lab, where we provide cyber investigations for attorneys or for people, just private citizens that maybe have an issue with their own devices. We also do background checks, general investigations, and then with the university, we're developing software. The software is a biometric software where it's facial recognition, and what we're doing with that is we're being able to check the online students. Are they the same students that signed up for the course? And we're trying to promote this to more than University of Bridgeport, to multiple universities in the state of Connecticut. And then the other thing that we're doing is we have just started this new cybersecurity program where we actually have courses at the university, a concentration in cybersecurity.
That was fascinating stuff. Al Dressler from the University of Bridgeport's Forensics Lab and
Facechecks.com.
Facechecks.com. Thanks for your time. You're listening to Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell. This is Jim Campbell, host of Forensic Talk. Tune into this station on Monday evenings at 6 p.m. for deep dives into the biggest crime stories today. Unsolved murders, financial crimes, penetrating questions.
I'm John Iannuzzi, producer of Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell. Each week, you'll hear in-depth interviews, whether it's Bobby Kennedy Jr. on his claims his cousin Michael Skakel is innocent of the Moxley murder, or a brutally honest conversation with Kathleen Willey, one of the women alleging sexual assault in the Clinton Oval Office, or the first interview after prison with an insider trader from the Raj Rajaratnam's biggest insider trading scandal in Wall Street history.
That's Monday night at 6 p.m. We'll bring you the facts, the forensic, both sides of the story, from insider trading to crimes of passion.
Forensic Talk with Jim Campbell is brought to you by Park City Productions. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram at Park City Productions 06604.